Okay, we're back. We've gone ahead and gotten ourselves pressed down really well. Now what we're going to do is look at closing up this little area here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stitch this from the back. One of the reasons why in the instructions I've suggested that you definitely keep your opening on one of these edges is simply because of that being on the straight of grain. Straight of grain does not stretch as much as the cross grain will. We know there's 3 grains in fabric. Our straight of grain, which runs in like a north-south direction. Our cross grain, which runs, I say, east-west. And then, of course, our bias, which is the most unstable direction. And what I'm doing here is I am just stitching ever so close, ever so close to the edge of this seam here. You can see it's just pressed really well so that it's where it needs to be, and I am just stitching right on the edge of it. I am stitching it from the back side. The reason that I'm doing that is because it will have a tendency to kind of migrate. The top will have a tendency to migrate onto the side you're stitching on. So this way, I would rather have my top fabric show just a hair on the back than to have my back fabric show on the front, especially in this instance because my back fabric is a color, my front is a very neutral, almost white, and there you go. It is stitched into place. It is nice and secure. And I did back stitch at the beginning and the end just to make sure that those stitches were secured in there. So the next process is that I am going to go through and I am going to stitch a 1/4 inch top stitching all the way around. I am going to start on the side. I don't like starting top stitching at a corner. Reason being is sometimes it's hard to match those corners up when you come around them again. By starting it in the center like this, if you get off just a hair, it really doesn't matter. You can migrate back to that area. Okay, so we're going to get over. There we go, nice and steady. Remember, on the 1/4 inch, we are going to go all the way around, and we are going to stitch on the top of our pocket as well. So I'm going to go ahead, I want to show you here how I'm going to get, remember these corners aren't going to be perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get as close as I can to making the corner. Oh my gosh, I couldn't have done that if I tried. Well, I did try, but it doesn't happen often that I get it perfect on that line the first time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And you'll see my corner is nice and sharp. I'm going to pull you in a little closer here. You'll see how nice and sharp that corner is as far as the stitching is concerned. And it doesn't take away that this corner isn't a perfect 90-degree angle. Don't worry about that. Like I said before, it's nearly impossible. You're going to be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead, put you on pause so you don't have to sit and watch me just stitch around the placemat, because that's about as much fun as watching paint dry. And then we'll be right back. So hang tight. Okay, I'm just finishing up my 1/4 inch top stitching. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over the first few stitches where I started, and I'm just going to back stitch 2 stitches. There we go. And that's just going to keep everything nice and tight in there, and then they won't fall out. We can also do what we do with a lot of our projects. We can go ahead and cut a long tail and bury it. Okay? So what we've got now is our 1/4 inch. What we want to put on here now is another 1/2 inch, and then by 1/2 inch I mean 1/2 inch from the edge to here, which is going to be another 1/4 inch, and then we're going to come in 1 inch. Now, to come in and do it under this portion of the pocket is going to be somewhat difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hold that back. I'm going to slip this in, and I'm going to go right here and come right to that corner where that meets. Okay. This is a little tricky. There's no doubt about it. This is going to be just a little bit tricky. Go ahead and put my foot down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take several stitches backwards. And I want to make sure I'm right at that 1/2 inch mark. And it looks like I've got to come out just a hair. There we go. Hold on to my threads, and I'm going to stitch backwards a few stitches. Now I'm going to go ahead and come forward. There we go. And now I am at my 1/2 inch mark. And when I'm saying 1/2 inch, I'm talking about a 1/2 inch from the edge of my placemat to my needle. Most of our machines also have a mark here which goes horizontal. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me pull it in a little closer. Oops, there we go. Right here I have horizontal marks. So this is a 1/4, a 1/2, it keeps coming out corresponding with my vertical lines. So I will know when I get to that point I need to stop and I need to turn my corner. Or sometimes I just guess at it. Actually, it's going to be this mark right here. And remember, that corner isn't perfect. So we're going to want to manipulate that just a little bit, making sure we get close. And there we did it. And we're going to go ahead and make this top stitching all the way around, and then I'm going to meet you back here again. Okay, I've got my 1/4 inch and my 1/2 inch, and now I'm lining up for my 1 inch. And my 1 inch, I can go quite a bit further into the pocket, as you can see. Lining up my 1 inch right here on my grid glider. Look at how nicely that works. I have another tool that I could use as well, and that would be my Circles and Straights tool. But since I've got the grid glider on here, I'm going to use it instead. Okay, there we go, pulling up my thread and lining myself back up. Making sure I put that needle right back down where I pulled that bobbin thread up. Foot goes down. I'm lined up nicely. Going to go ahead, take a few stitches forward, a few stitches back, just to go ahead and tie those threads in. And around we're going to go with our 2-inch, or our 1-inch, I'm sorry. Now, if you're not interested in doing any fancy quilting, such as freehand or free motion quilting, ruler quilting, or the such, you certainly can just go ahead and do some more rounds like this, or just come in and do some channel quilting, and you will have everything stabilized. Most 80-20 batting is rated for 3.5 to 4 inches. So what that means is that you would want your stitching lines to be no wider than 4 inches apart. Anything smaller than that will definitely hold things very nicely through washings and the such. This is a project I assume we will be washing occasionally. Okay, almost done with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and post this portion of the 2 videos that I have gotten done. And these will be just a sewing project. And I'm going to also come back and show you some ruler work that we can do with this project. Again, don't forget, if you're going to be stitching, just stitching some channel quilting or line quilting or such, you want things to be closer than 4 inches apart. And I'm going to just come down into the pocket as far as I can comfortably. Quite honestly, I do believe if we worked really hard at it, we probably could go all the way around this pocket. But I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. Okay, take that out. We're going to clip those threads. And I did backstitch at the very beginning and end, so I can clip those threads confident, knowing that they will not fall out. So let's see how far away we can get you. There we go. So here is our placemat. And you can stick your silverware into the pocket. You could stick a napkin in there, or you could even stick flowers in there, or sweet treats. That's always a good thing too. So anyway, if you're going to leave us at this point, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're going to continue to follow us for some ruler work, we will be back shortly. Until then, let's quilt.